It's been a hair over 3 years since Grand Theft Auto The Trilogy The Definitive Edition launched, and it's been more than a disappointment in its execution, with seemingly no big fixes in sight for some of its more obvious bugs. However, 3 years and a day after its release, Rockstar has finally released the mother of all updates for the trilogy that not only fixes some of the more egregious bugs, but also tackles the lighting and atmosphere. In case you didn't remember, all 3 games in the trilogy before this update shared the same skyboxes and lighting, as well as weather effects. That meant that the unique atmosphere and lighting of those previous games were lost in the Definitive Edition. In this video though, I don't want to go over the nitty-gritty details of every bug that's been fixed, or every other change made. Instead, I'd like to vibe check San Andreas, and see just how well the new classic lighting represents what we're all used to from the original. For the comparison, I'm going to be using the new updated Definitive Edition for the PS5, and the original PS2 version running under emulation. For this exercise, we're going to be looking directly at the color palette and atmosphere of the new classic lighting, and comparing it to what you might see on a PS2, as well as comparing it to what came before the previous update. So let's jump in and see how they look head to head. For this comparison, I want to look at Los Santos, San Fierro, Las Venturas, as well as the countryside and the desert, comparing a few different weather types and times of day. This won't be a comprehensive list of every different variable. I just wanted to take a look at some of the more recognizable scenes to see how they hold up. The original game on PS2 had such a unique look, so why don't we start our look at Los Santos, where it all began. The intro cutscene is a great place to start, as we all know it really well, and it always takes place at the same time of day with the same weather. The burnt orange sky combines with the haze, and as you look further up, it bleeds into this beautiful green color. The orange sun blasts onto the screen and coats everything in a warm hue. This, to me, is the San Andreas look. Taking a look at the Definitive Edition pre-patch, there is a stark difference here. The lighting is flat and the colors are dull. The sun is shining a bright yellow, almost white, and the sky barely has an orange tint. This, definitively, does not look like the original game. But now, with the new classic lighting, that original sky that lights up the haze is back. The sun is blasting orange light again, and it's coating the environment in a much needed warmer tone. Classic lighting also brings back a permanent haze in the distance, adding some character back into the game once again. This brings it much more in line with the PS2 version, while still keeping a further draw distance. I also want to note how the new lighting obscures some of the worst LODs in this game. This entire trilogy has a real problem with ugly LODs that used to be visible as clear as day. Now they look a lot more natural behind that haze and fog. Why don't we move forward a bit? This is the moment of San Andreas where you first take control. This image of the original game is iconic. The sky is gorgeous and the lighting is warm and oddly cozy. The Definitive Edition did away with this, of course. Here's how it looks with pre-patch lighting. Flat. Dull. Here's how it looks with classic lighting. As you can see, there is a dramatic difference here. Besides the added trees, you may have noticed that it doesn't look exactly 1-to-1 in this shot. The colors seem different, and so does the sky. The Definitive Edition still has those new textures, and a lot of them have different colors and different textures than the original game. This wall, for example, is different not only in color but in texture too, and the wooden fence has changed dramatically. This is not something that you can really fault the lighting for. The sky, on first glance, does look different, but that's mostly because the draw distance is so low on the PS2, and the sky color interacts with the haze. If you look on the Definitive Edition, the haze in the distance is orange, but the sky color just isn't as green as it should be. This was my first look at the new update, and even before looking at the PS2 version to compare, I had a gut feeling that they had done a good job. Despite the sky color being off here, this is one hell of an improvement. Let's move on and take a look at the overall skybox and weather patterns for Los Santos. A sunny day in San Andreas will typically look like this up until around 6 or 7 PM. The pre-patch version looks not only flat, but the draw distance is way too high, meaning that you can see far into the distance, all the way out to the ocean from wherever you are. All of the terrain is also lit evenly, making the lighting seem even more flat. Not only that, but the sky is grey, it's barely blue. The classic lighting reigns in that draw distance and coats it in a nice haze. Bearing in mind that there's a couple of hours between these clips, the added effects really do a nice job of evoking the original look of the game. In the evening, the game can look like this if the weather's right. The sky and the haze will be completely orange, and this is how I remember San Andreas. I remember it being hazy and orange. Pre-patch, the Definitive Edition looked like this. Now, the usual problems persist here, but the classic lighting brings it all home, with a burnt orange hue that coats the map. Admittedly, it's not perfect, but it's close enough that it feels like the weather and lighting effects have been remastered alongside everything else. Fortunately, I think they've done well. The countryside on a clear sunny day looks like this. The sky is green and fades as you look lower. The colors and the fog are very subtly warm. Here's how it looked pre-patch. And here's how it looks with the classic lighting. Compared to the PS2 version, it is lacking some color, but overall it looks the part. Here's another look at the countryside. This time you can see the fog has rolled in some, and the whole atmosphere is tinted green. This can also be observed on the Definitive Edition with the new lighting. In this game, the shade of green is similar, but not the same. However, if we look at the view distance in these shots, and we're only counting terrain, they are actually identical. Las Venturas is just beyond this bridge, but you would never know it from either of these shots. Here we are at San Fierro, where it's midday and the sun is out. The sky is a lovely light blue, as is the fog in the distance. Pre-patch, this looked as flat and generic as ever. But with classic lighting, they've brought back that clear blue sky, as well as that matching fog. I really like the way that this looks now, but I do think that they could have brought that draw distance in just a little bit. As from this side of San Fierro, we can just about see the big dish in the desert. Thankfully, this is mostly obscured. Let's take a look at a foggy San Fierro. The roof I was sitting on for some reason interfered with some parts of the weather, so I had to get up in a jetpack for this. You can see that the draw distance here is extremely close. The sky and the fog are both grey, and there are thick clouds that blow around the streets and obscure your vision slightly. We've all seen this weather before and wondered where it went in the Definitive Edition. Thankfully, it's back in the classic lighting in this new update. This was one of the better weather types in the pre-patch version, but even then, it wasn't faithful. The newer version is much better. The rain works in a very similar way. The rain is supposed to look like this. It's like fog, but with rain effects. The pre-patch version of the weather was piss poor. However, the classic lighting looks nearly identical to the PS2 version, and I think it just looks wonderful. Really well done on this part. At night, we used to have this dark blue sky, while the ground was lit by the warm glow of the streetlights. Here's how it looked pre-patch. And here's how it looks with the classic lighting. That old look has been mostly restored here, though the lighting on the ground could do with being a little less bright and a little less yellow. Let's take a look at Las Venturas now, where it's a regular sunny day. The sky is a light blue, and the draw distance doesn't go much past the buildings ahead. The pre-patch version looks as bland as ever, but with the classic lighting, we get all of those original colors back, and the draw distance here is comparable too. This feels just right for San Andreas. At night, the strip would sometimes look like this. Here it is pre-patch. And here it is with the classic lighting. It definitely evokes the original version, and I think it does a pretty good job here, though I do think some of the colors still need to be tweaked, as the lighting is hitting these buildings in very different ways. Las Venturas feels a lot closer to the original lone desert city that we all remember it as, with the new classic lighting. What's old is new again. The reimagined or remastered lighting and weather makes San Andreas feel unique again. It gives the map its character back. The pre-patch version of the game also had a terrible sandstorm effect. Now it feels so much closer to the original that it just feels right. I want to top off this quick look by having a peek at the desert, and I feel I've saved the best for last. During the day and in the evening in the desert, you're greeted with this classic orange hue again. It's so warm and inviting. It's what makes me want to go and explore beyond the haze. Here's how it looked pre-patch. The lighting is so flat, and the colors are so bland and generic. You can see all of Las Venturas, no sight unseen. You can even see the awful LODs of the buildings, and past them all to the infinite ocean beyond. Classic lighting injects that original atmosphere into the Definitive Edition, and the results are staggering. The draw distance is a bit further out than the original, but the fog and haze covers it all up. You can also barely see the awful LODs. Moving over to nighttime, we get to see that delicious purple desert sky in the original PS2 version. The pre-patch version was a sorry sight to say the least. Completely the wrong color, completely the wrong vibe, among other things. The new classic lighting, however, has brought this beautiful sky back in full force. Again, I feel like the draw distance could have been scaled back just a little bit more to make the desert feel a little more lonely. But I also feel that for here and a few other places, the ground shouldn't be as bright as it is. But I can't complain here, seriously. A very well done to whoever made these changes. As the night goes on and it gets later and later, in the original, the sky would shift from this bright purple to a deeper, more royal purple. In the classic lighting update, this is exactly the same. That's it for our quick look around the different parts of the map, but I'd also like to highlight the return of volumetric clouds. Remember those clouds that would appear in the sky when you're flying around? Well, with the new update, they're back. Now you can fly through the clouds to your heart's content. Even better, remember when you fly up really high in the Definitive Edition and you could see the entire map? Well, now that's gone too. It's just as hard to navigate based on sight alone as the original game, which I actually like quite a bit. Even when flying, using the fastest mode of transport, the map still feels huge, and I still feel small. The changes that have been made to bring back the visual style of San Andreas are a huge step in the right direction. And not to mention the many bug fixes and tweaks they've done to put right what Grove Street Games got so wrong. Of course, there is going to be the argument that this should have been how the game launched at minimum. And that's of course completely true. However, we had all written this game off by now, so to get any kind of update, let alone one of this size, is something to be thankful for. Maybe not to the large mega corporation that is Rockstar Games, but for the new team of people who have been tasked with fixing this mess, I salute you. San Andreas, Vice City, and 3 are all much better off now than they were a week ago, and they're that much closer to being a complete package, worthy of the name Definitive Edition. If you're interested in seeing some of the bug fixes and other changes that were made to these games, go and check out Bad Info's video on the subject. He has a great channel, and his series on the problems with the Definitive Edition are fantastic. I'll leave a link to that video and his channel in the description below. Highly recommended, tell him I sent you. Next time we'll be going over Vice City, where we do exactly what we've done in this video, seeing how it's changed in the recent update compared to the original PlayStation 2 release. Then we'll be looking at Grand Theft Auto 3, which is one I'm really looking forward to. Until then, thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, then hit that like button. It really helps the video get seen, and I'd really appreciate it. Keep it breezy and take it sleazy, my friends.
Yes, hello, can I send you anything?
I hear. I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large, I want a number 6 with extra dip, I want 2 number 45s, got 1 with cheese, and a large soda.
And a soda, okay, thank you, sir.
A large soda.
Yes, sir, okay, the soda's a large soda.